All right, so element 7 generator. One of the things you might find during install is, and even though you guys we don't do a ton of installs on these, but you might find where the zip ties have not been removed from the bottom. Those zip ties are going up and over the compressor and just holding them in tight during shipment. You want to remove those though, both of them. You'll install a 1/4 inch flex tube on that, it's a quick connect fitting, okay? And then you'll see there's a little L bracket. I would not recommend that you use that because they can't then pull the machine out, so leave that off. Once you plug it in and hook up the gas to the dispenser, turn the generator on, allow it to fully pressurize. It can take a few minutes to do. Run a system check, okay? Pressure gauge may drop below 80 psi during a cleaning cycle. The gauge measures line pressure, while internal system tank pressure is 120 psi. Allow 15 minutes between cleaning cycles. To toggle off, or if you toggle it off for 5 seconds, it'll bypass the timer. You can use that for troubleshooting. Verify that the switch is on when the switch is illuminated. So just to clarify that point right here, when you're troubleshooting the machine, if you don't know whether or not it's the pressure switch or the timer shutting it off, if you turn that toggle switch off for 5 seconds and turn it back on, it'll reset the timer. So if the pressure switch was not shutting you off, it'll come back on immediately, and that tells you that it was the timer that was shutting you off. Typically in a situation where you've isolated the system, and what I mean by that is you've disconnected the generator from the dispenser. In that situation, you should never run into a scenario where the timer is shutting it off. If you do, that typically means you've got a leak somewhere in the system you need to look at. Okay. One of the things they've done is they've swapped out the original on-off switch, which is down here. They put this new switch in that has integrated side guards on it for protection. The pressure switch has been upgraded to, this is the original pressure switch. I am told that this pressure switch is still available if you need to do it. The reason why
it's the same one they use on
you
air
wouldn't upgrade
compressors
is because the machine has a different configuration with the old pressure switch, as you can see right here. So here's the old pressure switch. The new style is
That's the standard you see on the,
okay,
like we replace on the.
Now, one thing that if you run into this old pressure switch and that pressure switch is failing you, one thing you can do is there's a separate set of terminals on there that aren't being used. You can take the wires and switch them over to the other set of terminals. If it works, you're fine. Don't worry about it. You can wrap things up.
You talking about those ones in the red circle? Switch those around?
If it doesn't, you'll need to replace the pressure switch. Another thing they've done in upgrading this machine is they've gotten rid of this terminal block up here, which, you know, if you are familiar with that style terminal block and a machine that vibrates a lot, you can kind of understand why you would have loose wires from time to time, you know, and that's not a good recipe.
Yeah, loose wires cause
so
fire.
What they've done here is they've upgraded to the Wago style connectors, and those are very, very reliable. The IEC wire terminal connections on the back, that whole socket there has been upgraded. Okay. The purge silencer has been upgraded. This is the original one up top. This is the new one. When you get the new one, it comes with a seal and an adapter, so it'll screw in correctly.
You did say it sounds like a gun without it. Wonder if you could use it on a gun.
If one of those fails, it sounds like a gunshot going off. So if you get a service call where they call in and say it sounds like a gunshot going off, that's why. Here's a list of their service call log. This goes back 4 or 5 years though. But originally, that original on-off switch was the major failure point in that machine, as you can see. So changing that has been a real positive for them. Then you've got the pressure regulator. That pressure regulator splits and leaks, and so it fails. So that's, if you ever have a leak in the machine, that's one of the first places to look. It
least they
usually
still
will
replace
crack
that.
right across the regulator. Then the pressure switch, and then it says PM kit, and muffler is in parentheses. And what that means is the muffler was the problem, but they went ahead and ordered the PM kit because the muffler is in the PM kit. And by the way, these numbers down here are part numbers associated with each part. So then you can see that the calls steadily drop off for other components. Let's talk a little bit about troubleshooting, okay? So the generator has no power. Does the switch light up green? No. Well, if it doesn't, you need to go and find out where you've lost power, whether it's your receptacle, the machine's become unplugged, the plug has come out of the socket, something of that nature. If it does light up green, then you want to make sure that all the wires are connected inside the machine correctly. The number one call you're going to end up with is something like this: nitro cold brew is not dispensing. And it might come under the dispenser and not the generator. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to look at your generator, because what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to figure out,
like
is
the
it
other
my
papers?
generator or is it the
Like
dispenser?
how he's doing this slideshow
Okay.
or whatever.
So does the
Does
generator
he send
gauge
that
show
to you
pressure?
so you can print that
No,
Just
out?
told
it
you
does
you
not.
didn't.
Oh,
If
That's
it
why I don't
doesn't,
have
then you
anything
want
in
to
front of you.
disconnect the gauge, the nitro line, or the gas line from the
But
back
it's all
of the
part of it.
generator and cycle it.
Well, I
Now
don't know
what
if
you're
this
doing
is
is
manual.
well, I know he probably hasn't
you
sent
are
it yet. Will he send it
isolating
later
the
after the class or
generator
something?
from
Usually
the
it's the day
dispenser.
before.
And if you find that there's a
That
leak
was
on
the
the
other guy,
generator, then you can kind of rule out the dispenser.
I can send you the
If
video.
you find that everything is good with the generator, then you can move on to the dispenser then to troubleshoot.
When
Okay?
he's close to done with the class,
So,
I'm asking him. We'll just ask him
The
if he
way
can email
the
that to
proper
you
testing for this
so we can print them
is
off in a
to
folder
shut
like
the
the
machine
others.
off. Sorry, the proper test is to disconnect the nitro line
I
from
can
the
send
back
these
of the
videos.
machine.
I'm going to upload them to my
And then
YouTube.
you're going to cycle
and then
the
you guys can
machine,
watch 'em.
and you're going to see if
Oh,
it'll
okay.
sit for 30 minutes. If it sits for 30 minutes without refiring, you don't have a
better
leak
idea. My
problem
phone
in
probably
the
wouldn't be able to
machine.
hold these
Then you would go
videos.
on and move over to your
That or I'd look
the
choppy.
dispenser side of it.
Yeah.
So
Send me
does
videos.
the
Don't
pressure
put.
on the gauge increase when you recycle it? It can take about 30 seconds for that to start happening. If it doesn't, remove the cover and check for leaks. Follow the air path to find the blockage. If it does, cycle the unit fully charged and leak test for up to 30 minutes. If there's no leaks, then move to the dispenser. Okay?
Tiny ass spider.
So let's go back to the beginning. Does the generator gauge show pressure? Yes, it does. So disconnect the gas line from the back of the generator and cycle the generator. Does it hold pressure for 30 minutes? Yes. If it does, move the dispenser. Move to the dispenser for troubleshooting. If it doesn't, remove the cover and check for leaks. Check pressure switch for power in and out. Okay? We got a pretty good storm going through right now.
Ours is about done.
Nitrogen generator makes a loud bang when it shuts off.
Okay,
By the way, are you guys hearing me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just wanted to verify. Alright, so nitrogen generator
getting
makes a
stirred.
loud bang when it shuts off. Remove the cover and replace the purge silencer, or check the safety valve. If it's defective, replace. Alright, the pressure drops below 65 psi, but the compressor does not start. So is the green light on the power switch? If it's not, that would help a lot, right, by turning it on. But if it is, remove the cover and check the power in and out of the pressure switch. Is there power to the inside of the pressure switch. So that means where the power comes into the pressure switch. Okay, do you have power there? And all I do is I just check that to ground or a neutral, and I should have 120 volts. If I don't have power there, then my power is more toward the supply issue, or more toward a supply issue in the machine. Okay, so we check our plug and make sure everything's good there. But if I do have 120 there, then what you're going to do is you're going to check the other side of the switch, okay? And if you have 120 to ground on the other side of the switch, then that means that well, first off, it tells you here, check the capacitor, it may need to be replaced. Well, they really missed something here, because if you guys go back to what we talked about earlier, there are two components that control the compressor. And one of them is the timer, the other one is the pressure switch. And even though the pressure switch is closed and is allowing power through it, if the timer's not allowing power through it, the compressor will not run. So I'm a little surprised they didn't put that here. That might have been a miss on their part. So yeah, but it could be the capacitor. It could be a bad generator as well. Compressor. If you don't have power on the other side of the pressure switch, but your pressure switch is very low, or your pressure is very low, and you have an old style pressure switch, then you can move the wires to the other contacts, or you would need to replace your pressure switch because it's clearly not functioning. Any questions so far?
You're good.
So Jason here, so it will kick on at 65, is that what you were saying?
No, really, it's. I don't know why they chose 65 here. I think that they are just saying that's like a.
And I'll check it to see if it's
65 is just a.
Sometimes, did you notice that the
This is
battery was
a
flashing?
number that they're referencing where they think that at that point it should be kicking on,
I know mine.
right?
Gets slow, it doesn't read.
But it should kick
Sorry about
on
that little one I gave you.
No.
at 105.
He already gave that one back.
The pressure switch
He
cycles
got
at
another one.
from 120 and 105.
That's just a little cheapy.
I really don't know why they chose 65 there, to be honest. I think probably the proper way to read that is your pressure is lower than way lower than it should be, and it's not kicking back on. What's the scoop? The first thing I would do is I would reset the timer by just turning it off for 5 seconds and turning it back on and seeing what happened. Any other questions? All right. Skip that one. Talk a little bit about the preventative maintenance.
What we don't do.
So what's included in the preventative maintenance kit? You've got a foam sponge over here. You've got the inlet filter element, that's this right here. The inline filter elements, that's right here. You have the non-return valve, which is this component right here. And then you have the purge muffler, which is here. They also give you a little grease, and I'll show you what that's for. So to remove the filter bowl, you're going to unscrew the bowl cover.
I think I'm
Cover?
gonna get one of those shirts.
You're going to cut off the old element, and that'll expose the stem here. And then you're going to have to pry that stem because it's screwed up into here, and it's oftentimes stuck. So you're going to need to put something in there to gain some leverage to crack that loose. And a lot of the guys are saying that half the time it's breaking off, so that's kind of a pain. But anyway, you're going to remove it. Then you're going to take the new one, you're going to put some of that lubricant on the threads so it's not so hard the next time. Then you're going to put your filter on with the O-rings and the washer. You're going to lubricate the cover seal, which is what you see right here. Sometimes that gets stuck up inside the cup, or what I would call the filter head.
what's the point of them not
And then
letting
once
us
you
do
do
this?
that, you can push this back on. Okay.
They probably
And
have,
by the way, how this
have one
works,
company that goes around and
down
does
here
them
at
all.
the bottom, there's a little diaphragm
I
in
mean,
there.
if we're gonna be working on it, they might as well
When
be
the
having us do that
compressor's
too.
running, it's putting pressure here in the system.
Whatever.
But there's
That
a,
diaphragm is
I used to work
seated,
for the company
and when the
that
diaphragm
does
seats, it's
most
sealed.
of the equipment
So
in
nothing's coming
Starbucks.
out here.
Uh-huh.
Okay?
so that's probably who they have it
As
doing
soon
it.
as the compressor shuts off, that
But
pressure is
their
taken
pay
off of the
period is
diaphragm,
7 weeks.
and there's no more
I
seal.
was not,
And
I
then what
wasn't
happens
happy.
is any moisture
So,
that's
once you do a
left
job,
up
you have
in
to wait
here can
7
then
weeks
drain
to get
out
paid for
from
it.
the bottom.
After you turn your paperwork in.
I have
That
seen one
invoice.
of these where
Which
that
And they
usually
wait till
like a
about the
week
stuck,
fourth or
so
fifth
whenever
week
the
to tell you you
compressor
did
was
something wrong on
running,
your
it was
paperwork and
coming
it starts
out
it all
that
over.
tube. You should be able to just
pain in the ass.
tap on the sides of it.
That's why I don't work for them
and see it.
anymore.
We don't have, this part is
That's a
actually
fault.
not available as an available
It's my
part
money and I want it now.
distribution.
That's how they come in.
So we had to get
It's
one,
like one of the oldest
before right off the line from the manufacturer, but they don't really like doing that. Any questions on this?
No, it looks the same as the nitros that we do at like
Any
Buffalo
questions
Wild
on this or
Wings
anything in there, in this
Yeah.
manual? All right,